Alright, so we're going to look at Doc McClendon. And what's the significance of this guy? Well, at the end of this video, I'm going to ask you a question concerning Doc McClendon. So stay tuned for that. Doc McClendon, as you can see, he had a bummy record. He had more losses than wins. And of course, this was throughout his career here. This is his career final record. Doesn't necessarily mean that most of his career was bummy, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that. But in this case, we're going to look and see if his career was bummy all the way through. And why that's important is because Doc McClendon, who was a lightweight most of his career, began his career in 1968, ended it in 1982, faced some of the very notable fighters in his particular division during that time. So it's important to know if his record was bummy all the way through, or if his record was bummy coming down to the latter stages of his career. Because sometimes guys, they begin to compile a lot of losses and make their career look like it's bummy, but really, early on in their career, they were doing quite well. All right? Now, I'm going to ask you a question, remember, at the end of this video. And I have some other videos that are coming up with guys with records that look bummy as well, like Doc McClendon. Now, Doc McClendon, early in his career, he faced a fighter who would go on to become a #1 contender later on. He faced a guy called Hector Mata, who was undefeated at the time. He lost to him. In fact, Doc McClendon lost his second fight to a debutant, and he would go on to lose a number of fights to a number of different people. But what is very interesting is Hector Mata was a guy that went on to face some really good fighters of his day. In fact, he faced Lou Bizarro, who was a contender, who faced Roberto Duran. He also faced Roberto Duran. He also faced Saul Mambe and beat him. He also faced Ken Buchanan, who was a former lightweight champion of the world. So this guy fought some people later on in his career, but at this point in time when he faced Doc McClendon, he hadn't faced them yet. But he still proved to be a relatively okay fighter. He lost to a lot of fighters, but he was an okay fighter. Doc McClendon faced him, right? And Doc McClendon, when he faced him, he was 2-1-1. Okay? Now, it's early in his career, so that's okay. Saul Mambe, he faced a little later on in his career. He faced him 1, 2, and 3 times. And what's important about Saul Mambe? Saul Mambe later on became the super lightweight champion of the world. Now, when McClendon faced him, he was 2-3-1, which means he lost more fights than he won. And then he faced him again, and he was 2-5-1. So, you know, he's starting to turn out to be a guy who's a loser. He loses more than he wins. But somehow he evened it off later on in 1971 to be 6-6-1. Okay? He then went on to face someone that you wouldn't expect a guy with so many losses, as you can see, he had a lot of losses to face, which was Esteban de Jesus. And when he faced Esteban de Jesus, his record at the time when he faced him was 10-11-1. So again, he's losing a lot more than he's winning. He's a bum or a very low-class journeyman. And you're wondering to yourself, well, maybe Esteban de Jesus, he was early in his career, just like Saul Mambe, just like Hector Mata. So maybe that's the reason. But when we go back and look, we see that Esteban de Jesus, he was 32-1-0. So in no way was Esteban de Jesus at the time early in his career. And then he faced Roberto Duran, not but 3 fights later, 36-1-0. And Roberto Duran, at the time when he faced Roberto Duran was the world lightweight champion of the world. Interestingly enough, this fight was not for a championship belt, and that makes sense to me because I don't think Doc McClendon was worthy of that. But look at this. He was 11-12-2, so he still has a bummy record when he faces Roberto Duran. So my question to you is this. How could a guy who consistently performs bummy and has a horrible record, how does he end up facing guys like Esteban de Jesus, who was the known lightweight champion of the world, WBC, and Roberto Duran, who became the unified lightweight champion of the world. How did he face Saul Mamby? Well, Saul Mamby became the super lightweight champion of the world. Not only Saul Mamby, but he also faced Hector Mata and some other notable names. Now, the question is, why would somebody who has such a bummy record face such people? And that's my question to you. I'm going to give you a partial answer to that question. Okay? So the first answer I'm going to give you is, if you look at the records of Saul Mamby and Esteban de Jesus and Roberto Duran, just pay attention to how they won. They never won by knocking this guy out. See? There's Duran. He didn't knock out Doc McClendon. Here's Esteban de Jesus. Right? They never knocked out this guy. So, some sort of skill he had to be able to allow these guys to be able to go the distance with him. The other thing that I noted was I couldn't find any video on him. But what was curious to me was that after Esteban de Jesus fought him, Roberto Duran fought him right after. So it could be that they were trying to share a common opponent to see who would do better with that opponent. So that could have been another reason. But you give me some other reasons. You think this guy, who throughout his career was losing more than he was winning, how did he end up fighting these notable fighters of the day? Alright, leave your comments in the comment section below. I'm on to the next video with another fighter with a bummy record. You guys have a great one.